بالجر والتنوين والندى وأل ومسند للاسم تمييز حصل. 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 So verse 10 of this poem discusses the marks of a noun. So these marks here you will only see with nouns. So بالجر والتنوين والندى وأل ومسند, these are the marks. For the noun للاسم تمييز, a distinction, that's the word تمييز, or a marking. حصل, happened. So by these five, for the noun a marking or a distinction happened. بالجر, this by here, this ba here means by. This is one of the lowering letter. This jar means to drag. Another word used for the same state is lower. So either one means the same thing. So only nouns accept this state, this jar here. There are some exceptions, but in a general rule, only nouns accept this movement. And most of the time, with nouns that end with a consonant, that's how you will see it, with this short vowel here. So this here is an example of jar for this word, bil jarri, by jar. This is an example. And because of this wa and this tanween, this other noun here, also was influenced by this letter by, so it end is lowered. So that's another example of the state of jar. This here should have this short vowel e, but it does not because of this vowel there. And this al here, the definite article, does not have it because it has a fixed movement. Here, this one has this state of jar. You know, this wa here cause all these, instead of saying by tanween, by nida, by al, you use the letter wa and. And this causes all these nouns to be influenced by the same factor that influenced the first noun here, which is this ba there. Wa musnadan, here you see the influence. This N here. This is with an N sound. Now this one here is lowered by this L here. That's another lowering letter or dragging letter, jar. You see it here. So that's the E there, that E sound there. So this is jar. Now tanween, this nonation here, the second mark is nonation, the nonation. So an example of it, this N here. You see that short vowel E with an N sound to it. Another example is this on there. You see that U with an N sound to it. So that's nonation. That's an example of nonation. So this is the second mark for the noun. One nida. And nida is calling. So only noun can be called. And these are the tools or letters that are used to call someone in Arabic. So this a, or this ya, or aya, or ay, or haya, or wa, or a. So any one of these can be used for calling a noun, and only nouns can be called. So that's why it's the third mark. This al here is the definite article. You will see it written like this most of the time. If it has diacritics, it should look like this. You see it here, you see it there, you see it there. So you have a definite article here, you have a definite article here, a definite article here, and this here is the definite article itself. So they had to write this a there in order to teach about it, or to tell you have to pronounce it. If I'm talking about it, I pronounce this a there. If I start a word or a sentence with the definite article, this connecting hamza will be pronounced like this hamza, a. So if there was nothing here, I started with al-jar, I would say al-jar. But now notice what I say, bil-jar. It's not pronounced, this connecting hamza. Also, the al, sometimes you hear it pronounced because it's followed by a moon letter, and it's not pronounced if it's followed by a sun letter. So here I say bil, I pronounce the al. Here I say what. Not the definite article is not pronounced, but it has this effect of doubling the letter, the sun letter that comes after it. So notice what I say, what, wanni. Same thing here. The definite article is written, but it's not pronounced. And this has to do with the sun and the moon letters. So these are the 4 marks. The 5th mark is that one of the marks for a noun is that you can tell about it something. So you can complete a sentence about the noun. So you start with it like this, Zaydun. Here is Zayd, a proper noun that accepts the nonation. Zaydun. Qa'imu. Because I paused here, I did not pronounce the short vowel with the nonation there. But here I'm telling something about Zayd. And this is one of the qualities of the noun, is to musnad, meaning to support something. It will be supporting something. So Zaydun here is a noun that is supporting this khabar or news or telling something that you told me about. This Zayd can accept it. So that's how the sentence is completed. So you can tell something about a noun. Also, you have a verb. If you use a verb, it needs the noun. So the verb will be supported by the noun. So this is one of the main marks for nouns. It's this idea of support or informing about it or saying something about it. And that's what they use to decide that pronouns are nouns. That's one of the main marks, is that you can use a pronoun in that sense. Support a verb or tell something about the pronoun. So here the commentator used this sentence here to explain the 3 reasons for the state of jar, that you can see a state of jar. This full sentence here is مررت بغلام زيد الفاضل. مررت, I passed, by. بغلامي, غلام can mean a boy, a young boy, or servant. So this ba here is an example of jar. The state of lowering or dragging the noun is one of the reasons, this lowering letters. So that's the dragging by the letter. This is the first one case. The second case is idafa, adding. So if I say here, it says بغلام زيد, the boy of Zayd. This is another way of defining a noun, is to say it's, in this case, the boy of Zayd. So when the name that you add this to it, when the ghulam was added to Zayd here, this noun took this lowering of its end, this E sound here. So in this case, it took the nonation, because this proper noun can accept nonation. So it's Zaydin, بغلام Zaydin, E, in here. So that's the other reason that a noun can has its end lowered or dragged when using a short vowel E. So that's idafa. The third case in which you will cause the noun to take jar or have its end lowered is taba'iyya, following. So here this adjective, depending on context, can describe Zayd or the boy. بغلام زيد الفاضل. This should have an E there. If you continue, you will pronounce it. But now I paused at it. I did not pronounce it. And I talked about this and here. This is one of the reasons for following. This letter, these letters, or there are other letters that cause a noun to follow the noun before it. In this case it's and, this wa here. Adjectives also follow the noun before it, but in this case you have ghulam lowered for a reason and Zaid is lowered for another reason. So this adjective can describe either one of them depending on context. So that's following, taba'iyya. As for narration, here the commentator discuss 4 parts. I will not talk about these, but this is the main part we talked about. They call it tanween al-tamkeen. It follows the nouns that accept change at their ends. So that's the nouns that take narration, that adding that N sound. So it follows al-asma'ul-mu'raba. So here he gave an example of this is a proper noun, كزيد, and this is an indefinite noun. So here he covered the 2 examples you would see the narration with. Some proper nouns and an indefinite nouns. Now these other 2 there, that's too deep of a discussion to go into. But the 3rd one here I like to talk about, the 4th one I mean, which is here, tanween al-iwad. It's the narration that indicates a replacement. So the one part I will talk about, it can replace a sentence, it can replace a word, and it can replace a letter. So I will only talk about the narration that replaces a noun. So a narration that is replacing a singular noun is this one here. Kull means every. So kullu insanin qa'imun, every human is standing, is replaced by kullun qa'imun. On here, this narration here has a reason for it. It's one of these 4 reasons that the commentator is discussing. This on here was added to this kull, qa'imun. So what is this narration replacing? Instead of saying kullu insanin qa'imun, a human, every human is standing, you just add this on there. So by saying kullun qa'imun means everybody is standing, but you don't have to add that word there. So that's one of the reasons for narration. As I said, there are others, but these I think are enough for a review. Of course, in poetry they have other reasons for that. So if you study poetry, you will go into that. You might see that in poetry. So you will see narration where it shouldn't be. And that's a different case for poetry. بالجر والتنوين والندى وأل ومسند للاسم تمييز حصل. بالجر والتنوين والندى وأل ومسند للاسم تمييز حصل. بالجر والتنوين والندى وأل ومسند للاسم تمييز حصل.